like to introduce Peter Szarmach. He graduated with a BA in graphic design from the University of Illinois at Chicago, where his love for photography blossomed. After a 20-year career in graphic design, he moved on to a 20-year career in marketing. Now in retirement, he's rekindled his love for photography and has captured award-winning images that have been shown locally in San Antonio and in galleries across the US. He serves as a board member of the San Antonio Art League and a displaying member of the new Braunfels Art League and docents at both locations. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be presenting to your group this evening. And before I get into my main presentation, I'm going to show you your audience a quick portfolio and talk a little bit about what I've been doing since retiring from marketing. Let me share my screen here. And some of the things I've been doing since retirement have been putting together a couple of books. One we'll talk about tonight. These first two images I'm showing here are a couple of images from Oaxaca. One is a bougainvillea bowl on the left and a Oaxaca patio on the right. A couple of other images here are Palo Duro Canyon in Texas on the left, and a piece I call Thermal Abstract number 3 on the right, which was juried into a show at an A. Smith Gallery, a very prestigious photography gallery in Johnson, Texas. I was very fortunate to get this piece in the show, and their entries usually total in the thousands, so it's really tough to get into any of their shows. I've been going to photo tours in outside of Taos, New Mexico, and Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and I've been challenging myself to kind of a photo a day back in 2020. The next two images are Shrouded Mountain from Grand Teton National Park, and the one on the right is a fern wheel taken in New Zealand. Certainly spent time updating my website on an ongoing basis, and of course entering juried shows. These next two images are part of a natural abstract collection I've put together. The one on the left is abstract number 7, and the one on the right is abstract number 1. And also been participating in some fundraising shows along the way. And these two images were actually in a show this weekend. Big Tree on the left and Soft Landing on the right. We're at a fundraising show, art show for a nonprofit here in San Antonio called Abode. They offer a hospice home for those who either don't have a home or their caregiver cannot give adequate care inside their home. And I've been working with this group for a number of years. So before we get, and also in terms of the art leagues, I've been working with social media postings for the San Antonio Art League, and just recently chaired the 92nd annual juried exhibition at the San Antonio Art League, which drew over 400 entries from 197 artists across Texas. And our jurors selected 66 works, and that exhibition is currently up and will come down at the end of the month. And as aforementioned, I've been docenting at both of those art leagues, the San Antonio and the New Braunfels Art Leagues. So before we get into the presentation, any questions about the portfolio?
Peter, I just wanted to say that I was really impressed by your work. You are our first out-of-state speaker, so we are super happy to have you. And it's the magic of Zoom and something good that COVID has done. But you were invited because your work was featured by Artsy Shark. So I saw your work on social media and on the Artsy Shark newsletter, and that's how I found you. And your work is just amazing. So thank you for being here, and looking forward to your presentation about the book and how you published.
Thank you, Robbie, and thank you for the invitation. So the subject this evening, why publish an art book, will center around why I published my first art book, Sacred Places, back in 2019. It was a self-published book with using an online source, and I've since published a collection of natural abstracts as well, and started on a third book called Trees and Canopies, which is focused on some heritage oaks in my neighborhood. And my inspirations for these books, some of the primaries have been nature, of course, the macrocosm and microcosm of nature, and the ability to show a series that's come through very well in the natural abstract book that I mentioned, and the ability to present some more affordable art to my audience. The book sell for $40, and there's not a big profit margin in there for me, but I'm not looking to make a lot of money from my art at this point in time. And also making a personal statement, which we'll explore a little more as we move through the book. So Sacred Places, inspired by natural and man-made places, and especially nature, where for me everything seems to belong. The quotations in the book refer to aspects of the images, and most notably by some Native Americans who hold the belief of Mother Earth and Father Sky as our divine parents. The cover of the book is the lone buffalo image, and it speaks to me about the vastness and the solitude nature can provide us. And page 1 has images of Canyon de Chelly in Arizona, a very notable national monument with an infamous history of U.S. troops driving the Navajos out in 1863 by destroying their crops, dwellings, and livestock. And also wanted to, for context, include a kind of iconic image by Edward Curtis of Canyon de Chelly. If you're not familiar with Curtis, he did extensive research on the various Native American tribes of North America and published a collection of 40 volumes, 20 consisting of text and 20 with images, circa 1907. And you can view this whole collection on the Northwestern University website. I encourage you to do that if you're interested at all in the North American Indian. And the quotation on sacred places is attributed to N. Scott Momaday from the Kiowa tribe. To encounter the sacred is to be alive at the deepest center of human existence. Sacred places are the truest definitions of the earth. They stand for the earth immediately and forever. They are its flags and shields. If you would know the earth for what it really is, learn it through its sacred places, at Devil's Tower, or Canyon de Chelly, or the Cahokia Mounds. You touch the pulse of the living planet. You feel its breath upon you. You become one with a spirit that pervades geologic time and space. And this quote obviously spoke to me about sacred places, and the fact that it refers to Canyon de Chelly was a big plus. But more so, the pulse of the living planet struck me as a reference to Mother Earth and Father Sky, and the spirit that pervades geologic space and time. On pages 2 and 3, I'm featuring the Taos Pueblo. This Pueblo has been thought to be inhabited for more than 1,000 years and is both a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a National Historic Landmark. And I've juxtaposed a kind of a close-up or segment of the Pueblo alongside a a more overall view of the Pueblo in a sepia tone image with the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in the background. And the quotation on this page is a poem by Howard Rayner of the Taos Pueblo Creek tribe called Beauty Way. And today my heart will have harmony, my spirit singing the songs of happiness. My mind will seek balance, one with Mother Earth and the Creator. My eyes will look for good, and there I will find it. My mouth will whisper the words of gratitude, and today I will walk the beauty way. And this poem spoke to me on many levels in terms of harmony and Mother Earth, gratitude, and beauty. Any questions on what we've seen so far or comments? All right, I will move on. On pages 4 and 5, I feature another Pueblo, the Acamo Pueblo, built on a tall mesa about 65 miles west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the two images here are one Native American sacred place, a kiva, and a Spanish colonial sacred place, a church. For those not familiar with kivas, they are large rooms that are circular and underground and are used for spiritual ceremonies. And the ladder depicted here goes to the rooftop entrance, which is usually another ladder going down to the circular room. By climbing the rungs of the ladder out of a kiva, travelers ascend to earth, replicating the mythical ancestral emergence into this world, and at the same time connecting to their ancient ancestors who first made these journeys. The San Esteban del Rey Mission Church is a Spanish mission church on the Acamo Pueblo reservation built between 1629 and 1641. It is one of the finest examples of hybrid Spanish colonial and Puebloan architectural styles. It was named for Saint Stephen I of Hungary, and the church was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1970 and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And the thing I like about the church photo is we've taken just around dusk, and there was a nice golden glow in the bell tower, which attracted me to the image. And the quote on this spread is, "In the end, I tell my children there's no way I can tell you how to be an Acama, how to be an Indian. You have to experience it," from Stanley Paitiamo of the Acamo Pueblo. And I think this quote kind of speaks for itself. On pages 6 and 7, we travel down under to the Cathedral Cove Marine Reserve in the southern part of Mercury Bay on the Coromandel Peninsula in New Zealand. Through the opening of the Cathedral Cove on page 6, you can see the bottom portion of Ojo Rock, which is the image on page 7. And I like how the people on the beach inside the rock-formed cathedral give us a sense of scale. And the short quote here, "Travel and change of place impart new vigor to the mind," from Seneca, a Roman philosopher, speaks to my love of travel. And New Zealand was a special place full of natural highlights like this cove and the treetop rock. The next spread focuses on trees, the subject of my next book, as I said. And on page 8 is what's, according to some sources, the most photographed tree in the world. It's the lone tree of Lake Wanaka in New Zealand. And I lead off with a quote from Khalil Gibran on the following page. "Trees are poems that earth writes upon the sky," next to the image of the aspen forest. And I like the juxtaposition here of the density of the aspens and the openness of the lone tree on Lake Wanaka. Pages 10 and 11 focus on a national treasure, Yellowstone National Park. The grand prismatic spring image on page 10 is an otherworldly image and a premier thermal feature of Yellowstone. One of the most photographed features of Yellowstone, in this 10-story deep spring, gets its rainbow hues from different species of thermophile or heat-loving bacteria living in the progressively cooler water around the spring. And across from that, I'm featuring a very pastoral photo of some hillsides in Yellowstone. And beneath that, this great quote from John Muir. Everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and cheer and give strength to the body and soul alike. This natural beauty hunger is made manifest in the little windowsill gardens of the poor, though perhaps only a geranium slip in a broken cup, as well as in the carefully tended rose and lily gardens of the rich. The thousands of spacious city parks and botanical gardens in our magnificent national parks, the Yellowstone, Yosemite, Sequoia, etc., nature's sublime wonderlands, the admiration and joy of the world. For those of you unfamiliar with Muir, he's known as the father of national parks and the founder of the Sierra Club. Muir's words resonate with me in terms of what I'm trying to do on a very basic level, is give some of the beauty I've witnessed back to viewers who may never get the chance to experience it. The next spread takes us down the road about 2.5 hours, to the Grand Teton National Park, where I feature some images of nature's grandeur. Teton Majesty on page 12 gives you a great sense of the layers that make up that spectacular national park. And Cloudy Reflections on page 13 give us a serene look at one of the lakes in the park. Beneath it is the image of the Reed Moulton homestead that lies outside Grand Teton. It was part of a Mormon settlement that began in 1890 and used an irrigation system that allowed them to overcome some of the harsh conditions of Wyoming. You can see one of these irrigation ditches leading up to the homestead, one of two vectors that are taking your eye to the homestead, and the other being, of course, the mountain range out to the left. And Muir's quote here is, "Keep close to nature's heart and break clear away. Once in a while and climb a mountain or spend a week in the woods. Wash your spirit clean." This speaks to me of the cleansing effect nature can have on us. And pages 14 and 15 focus on the sacred element of water. The Oak Creek abstract on page 14 was shot in Sedona, Arizona, while the Bear Creek abstract was taken in Telluride, Colorado. I like how the Bear Creek image with the water rushing across it, ironically kind of turns into a watercolor-like image. And the quote here from Flying Hawk, a chief of the Agala Lakota, speaks to the basics of good health, which of course includes water. And I quote, "Nobody can be in good health if he does not have all the time fresh air and sunshine and good water." The next spread stays with the water theme and features a swirling rainstorm just outside of Grand Teton National Park on page 16. And an ominous looking cloud with a gold lining as these clouds were descending around dusk outside of Jackson, Wyoming. I had to pull off the road to capture both of these images. They were that visually arresting to me. And the rainstorm photo has appeared in a book recently published called Wildlands, published by the Jen Tuff Gallery in Santa Fe. And the quote on this spread is from Okute, the Teton Lakota. "All living creatures and all plants derive their life from the sun. If it were not for the sun, there would be darkness and nothing would grow, and the earth would be without life. Yet the sun must have the help of the earth. And if the sun alone were to act upon animals and plants, the heat would be so great and they would die. But there are clouds that bring rain, and the action of the sun and earth together supplies the moisture that is needed for life. The roots of a plant go down, and the deeper they go, the more moisture they find." And this quote to me marries the Mother Earth and Father Sky belief in referring to the earth needing the help of the sun and rain to grow plants, and its reference to clouds seemed most appropriate to these images. And I'll stop here another second and see if anyone has any questions or comments.
I have a question about your camera. What kind of camera you're using?
I have a Nikon D5100.
Does that answer your question? What lenses?
Oh,
Of course, it's a photographer.
I primarily use a large telephoto. It's a Tamron 18-400 telephoto.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just have a comment about your quotes. They're really beautiful and, you know, introspective. And one of the shortest one was, I cannot teach you how to be an Indian. You just have to do it. You have to live it. And it reminds me of the life of an artist. It's hard to teach somebody how to be an artist. You just have to do it. Just or for artists, I mean, any kind of art, really. You just have to try and do it. So that was nice. All right. Any other questions? Nope. All right.
All right. Before I get into the next spread, I'm featuring a photo here from Ansel Adams, circa 1929, of the St. Francis Church at Rancho de Taos, New Mexico. A lot of folks are familiar with this kind of iconic image as well. And I'm just showing this in context to my next spread with the same church of the Rancho de Taos Church on page 18, which is taken from a side and front view versus the rear. And juxtaposed to that is a starry dome shot from the cathedral in Siena, Italy. And I've juxtaposed these with a quote from a book by agnostic Robert Ingersoll, which discusses nature and sacred falsehoods. Surely the time must come when the wealth of the world will not be wasted in the propagation of ignorant creeds and miraculous mistakes. The time must come when churches and cathedrals will be dedicated to the use of man, when minister and priest will deem the discoveries of the living of more importance than the errors of the dead, and when the truths of nature will outrank the sacred falsehood of the past, and when a single fact will outweigh all the miracles of Holy Writ. This quote from Ingersoll, who's an agnostic from the late 1800s, spoke to me in terms of the images being used in this last spread. A church and a cathedral and the truths of nature outranking the sacred falsehoods of the past. I don't want to get into a religious discussion, but suffice it to say that I'm an agnostic at this point in my spiritual journey. And finally, my favorite page in the book is page 20. We come back where we started to the lone buffalo image in the front cover, and a quote from Luther's Standing Bear, a chief from the Oglala Lakota, describing the Native American as being of the soil. And I won't read this whole quote to you. You can probably read it yourself. But a man fashioned for his surroundings by the landscape and naturally bringing that to that landscape, just as the buffalo belonged. And I dedicate this book to my wife, Becky Hadley, who has been my life and travel partner for over 40 years. And why did I publish this art book? Well, certainly to share these images and sacred places with an audience. And the relationship between man and nature that's informed by some of the viewpoints and beliefs included in the book. And finally, adding my personal viewpoint of a natural cathedral that relies on the power of earth and sky, and not necessarily the man-made religions humans have debated over across time. And that ends my presentation. Sorry about the phone call. And here's some viewing and contact information. And I welcome any questions tonight or further on by email or on my website. And thank you again for inviting me to speak.
So your books are self-published, correct?
Correct.
And what kind of website? There's a question about what kind of website you used to make them.
I use a source called Snapfish. So it's a very, it's basically a self-publishing, situation. They're not ISBN, recorded anywhere. So it's just for my own, benefit. And, you know, I've thought about maybe publishing with Amazon. I've kind of started to look into that, maybe get a wider audience and not necessarily just try to sell them at shows or the various galleries I'm in.
I just finished a book, and the title of it is Braiding Sweetgrass. And she is a native woman who is also a PhD botanist. And it's very much in the native way, in the beauty way. And so I just wonder if you're familiar with that book, because I think you would appreciate it.
I am not, but what is the title again? I'm sorry.
Braiding Sweetgrass.
Oh, no, I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look into that.
Timmerer is her name, but it's
Okay.
very much about Mother Earth and Father Sky.
Great.
Somebody's saying that they really enjoyed your presentation. So I'm
Thank
not
you.
sure. Let's see.
You want me to stop sharing?
Try to stop sharing.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, then I'm going back to, no, for some reason my views are not showing correctly, but we can see you really nicely. Can you see? I was wondering if you could see the room with people. Can you see it?
To some extent, yes, I can see some heads. Hello.
Can you see them now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Looks like a good group.
Okay. Yes. It's a nice
Nobody
group.
fell asleep, I hope.
Some of your abstract photos, are they like aerial views?
Are they aerial views? No.
Yes.
No, I haven't been up on a plane shooting. I've been up on a hot air balloon shooting, but none of the ones that I showed you tonight were from the air. I do a lot of hiking, so I do get up to some big heights at some point, but none of these tonight were shot from the air.
Yeah. Some people use drones. Maybe
Yeah.
the question was about that. Yeah. Okay. So you actually were somehow pointing down on your subject.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, looks like we have no more questions. Thank you very much. We
Okay,
love
well,
having
thank you
you.
once again. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Keep in touch. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye-bye, Robbie.